Hey guys, JoINrbs here. Today I'm going to be talking about late game specialists. This is a part of a 24-part series where I'm spending 3 episodes talking about each of the 8 main classes in Long War II. So, we've already talked about specialists in early game where I said they were quite strong but not really outstanding. And mid game where I said that they began to be extremely powerful. In late game, I gave specialists an 8 out of 10 for alpha striking and a 9 out of 10 for breakdowns, which is the same alpha strike rating that I gave them in mid game and a slightly better breakdown rating. That means I think that they're extremely good at killing pods as they patrol into you, or once they've pulled, when XCOM gets XCOM's turn, it gets to try to kill the aliens before they get to attack. And it means that I think they're insanely good in situations where things have fallen apart and aliens are starting to get actions against you. The reasons for this aren't really having that much to do with the perks that they get at Gunnery Sergeant and Master Sergeant, although Full Override is one of the strongest perks in the game and definitely factors in. A lot of it is just that their Squatty perk, Haywire Protocol, lets them mind control robots, and on legend difficulty, mind controlling a tier 2 drone is very, very good. It's essentially a mimic beacon. And their Lance Corporal ability, Sentinel, lets them take 2 reaction shots against incoming enemies. At this stage in the game, Rangers also have a very strong reaction fire perk. Rapid reaction is available to them at Gunnery Sergeant. Rangers are a little bit more difficult to level up than specialists in my experience, and it's questionable whether rapid reaction is actually the better multi-shot Overwatch perk, especially late in the game on legend difficulty. You face a lot of pods with lightning reflexes enemies in them, and while you can sort of control that, if the pod is active for multiple turns, you can prioritize killing the lightning reflexes guys and let your Overwatch shots kill the other ones. On the first turn that the pod patrols in, that's hard to deal with, and a ranger will often miss the first shot against the lightning reflexes enemy and then have no more shots against the incoming pod, whereas the specialist, Sentinel guarantees 2 shots as long as you see 2 different enemies to shoot. So, very, very, very good soldier. There are some things to say about the perks, for sure. At Gunnery Sergeant, we have Rescue Protocol, Threat Assessment, and Full Override. Rescue Protocol is a bit of a throwaway, honestly. I don't think there's anybody in the world who has taken this perk at Gunnery Sergeant on Specialist. It would surprise me. Maybe if they were doing a challenge campaign where they had to take the worst perk at each tier. Using your Gremlin to grant a movement action to an ally. This, I believe, doesn't even do quite what it implies that it does. Does it actually let you take a move with... I don't even think that lets you move your soldier where you want to move your soldier. I'm pretty sure that it means that the soldier runs away without you having control of them. Maybe it does let you move your soldier, in which case it's better than I'm reading it. But like I said, I don't think anyone's ever taken this perk at Gunnery Sergeant, so I don't know. And Threat Assessment is a perk which lets Aid Protocol grant covering fire to your specialist, or grant a covering fire Overwatch shot to your specialist or to another soldier. And that's a pretty strong thing to be able to do. It obviously factors in nicely with your Overwatch strategy. You give yourself an extra covering fire shot, and then you can also place yourself on Overwatch and end up taking even more shots than usual. I'm pretty sure that's how this works. So I gave that a 7 out of 10 for alpha striking and a 5 out of 10 for breakdowns, but I've also never actually taken that perk at Gunnery Sergeant. Because Full Override is on the specialist tree at Gunnery Sergeant. So I'm not going to pretend to know everything about Rescue Protocol and Threat Assessment. I've played around with Threat Assessment and testing a little bit, and my understanding of Rescue Protocol is that it's a repurposed fallback. There was an officer ability fallback, which has been replaced in 1.3, and I'm pretty sure that that's what Rescue Protocol is doing, but maybe I'm wrong. But Full Override lets you mind control something, It's like what the Haywire Protocol does, where you try to hack a robot, and with Haywire Protocol you have a chance to shut it down and a chance to hack it and take control of it for 3 turns. Full Override has a chance to hack the enemy for the remainder of the mission, which has comparable chance to your shutdown chance for Haywire Protocol. And it has a chance to take over the robot for the entire mission and send it to your haven as a resistance mech if you complete the mission with the robot intact. Now, that's harder to succeed on, that hack, and it's never been relevant for me. I don't care about having mechs in my havens in late game. It just doesn't matter at all. But just using this to mind control a robot with 100% success chance for the entire rest of the mission is very, 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 very strong. And it also is on a separate cooldown from Haywire Protocol. Well, actually, Full Override is a consumable. You get 1 charge of it per mission. So you can do things like Haywire Protocol a drone in 1 turn. Okay, first, we're starting with 2 Overwatch shots against the pod. So we take 2 Overwatch shots against the pod. Then in our turn, we mind control a drone or something like that. Then the aliens take a turn, and like the 2 of them who are left alive get to shoot the drone. Good for them. And then our next turn, like a pod with mechs or something has patrolled in, we get to mind control a mech. And on the alien turn, they shoot the mech. Most people who have played Vanilla XCOM 2 know how extremely strong mimic beacons are. They are very inaccessible in Long War 2, so they don't really become a thing that you care about. But this is the game's mimic beacon, more or less. There's a chance to fail your rolls, but it's minute. And one of the reasons that Haywire Protocol gets stronger and stronger as the campaign goes on is the enemies you're hacking have more like defense, armor, and dodge. And your ability to lower the hack defense of enemies is increasing rapidly. For example, all you need is to put red screen rounds plus a pistol on a soldier who you've trained fan fire on in the AWC, and you can shoot a robot 5 times with red screen rounds, and the debuff from red screen rounds will stack, and it will make you able to like take control of a sectopod. So instead of like setting up this incredibly complex Kubikuri kill on a sectopod with like multiple moving pieces, a sharpshooter who you've trained all the way through, who you've taken Deadshot on in the AWC to get extra crit for Kubikuri chance, who's steadied with an elite stock. You've got like an officer who's granting more crit chance this turn. You put a laser sight on your sniper rifle instead of a scope to get that crit chance up, etc. Instead of doing that, and that's cool, you can do that, but you could also like give a soldier a pistol, red screen rounds, and fanfire, and control the sectopod, control its 100 hit points and 8 armor for the rest of the mission. Now the AI, I've controlled a sectopod or 2 in my day. You're not allowed to ride them, but you do get to give them move commands and let them shoot things and stuff like that. I have done some really stupid stuff with sectopods, and I have yet to have one die. And I have also, I'm pretty sure, yet to have one of my soldiers die while I control a sectopod, because they like stand out of cover in front of the enemies and draw basically all of the attacks which are happening, and then they just don't take relevant damage from them because they are invincible. I just played a water world on Legend Iron Man last night where I full overrode a sectopod sort of a third of the way through the mission, and it was actually in front of 3 super heavy mechs who all shot it, shredding 5 of its armor. One of them used micro missiles on it, and the other 2 shot it. So my sectopod only had 3 armor and like 75 hit points or something, and I got it a third of the way through Legend Iron Man Waterworld. I didn't do an outstanding job of like killing everything on that mission or anything, and my sectopod was still alive at the end of the mission, and it was like tanking everything that it could. The only time that I was letting, anything else get shot at was in the final room, which was just too spread out for my sectopod to tank everything, so it was only tanking like a quarter to a third of the enemies there. I had to mind control Archons to do the rest. It was really rough. Yes, the harder. This is a constant challenge with game balance. Is like mind controlling stuff using something like full override makes even legend difficulty quite trivial once you work out how it works. Like you mind control something, the enemies shoot at that instead of your soldiers. Your soldiers then have like another turn to kill the rest of the stuff. Cool. Well done, you. But like, if you keep on just increasing the difficulty of legend, you get to a point where like the only way you can possibly win is to mind control things so that they can tank for you, and that's just not actually an interesting gameplay pattern. So I don't know, maybe someday this will be somehow weaker to a point where it isn't so strong in the game, but it's hard to work out how to make mind control not very strong, honestly. You'd have to make it like break if the unit took damage or something like that. This perk would be more reasonable if mind control broke when the unit took damage. You'd have to like defend the unit and prevent, yeah. I don't know, that could be interesting. I'm not suggesting that change, but mind control. Mind control is a good thing to use in squad-based combat games. Just every time it's available, basically in any game, if you can mind control something, that's pretty good. So, this is now a soldier with 2 different mind controls and multiple Overwatch shots who can hack objectives and get you unique strategic benefits, and who looks pretty sharp too. I'm not sure what's going on with her abdomen there. It seems to be invisible, but otherwise she's looking pretty good. Master Sergeant perks on a specialist, honestly, you can take any of these 3 and the soldier is extremely good. These are perks that I take and then don't use on most of the missions the specialists are on. I can use Capacitor Discharge usually, but it's not an extremely strong perk. So we'll talk about them. I gave them ratings, but mostly these don't get used very much because the specialist has 2 mind controls and can shoot twice on Overwatch and has an aid protocol. Oh my god, it has 2 mind controls. Okay, one of them's on cooldown, so you can use it every 3 turns. So at Master Sergeant, you get Restoration, Kill Zone, and Capacitor Discharge to pick between. Restoration flies to each squad member, healing or reviving them as needed. The lock implies that if you have a soldier who's bleeding out, it's going to like heal and revive them, and that's not true. I'm not even sure that Restoration revives an unconscious soldier. That lock's really misleading. But it will run around to all of your soldiers who are wounded, and it will throw... If you're in this perk tree with no savior, I believe it throws an extra 5 hit points on everybody who's wounded, which can be nice. Doesn't it like... Yeah. If you get a tier 3 gremlin, it will heal a little bit more. I thought that it removed status effects, but this isn't saying that it does, but I'm pretty sure that it does. I'm pretty sure that it removes the same status effects that healing with a medkit would, so it removes like poison or fire. It's a very, very, very strong ability. It's sort of insane that this ability, which it's just like a reset button in a breakdown, where like in breakdowns you try to use your soldiers' health bars as consumables quite often because you don't have enough stuff to control the enemies without doing that, and your soldiers' health bars are some of the easiest consumables to use in the game. In fact, sometimes we accidentally use them because of how easy it is to use them as consumables. So yeah, it's just like you hit this button and all of your soldiers have an extra 5 hit points suddenly, and that can be very, very powerful. You can be talking about a 20 plus hit point heal with 1 action. It doesn't come up that often, and when you're mind controlling multiple things every mission, you don't really take that much damage on your soldiers, so that's probably why. Killzone, we've talked about Killzone before. The thing about Killzone is, okay, you're an assault rifle soldier and you can definitely equip an elite expanded magazine on a specialist and have 6 ammo, and that's cool, but there's only really one situation where Killzone's actually better than just pressing the Overwatch button on your specialist, which is when a pod's about to patrol into you and you know for sure that they are. And yeah, you can use Killzone there if you want. I mean, they're already going to die, but you can you can use Killzone there if you want. Typically, the situation where a pod's about to patrol into you and you know that they are is not problematic for teams using late game specialists. Man. So like for the other classes who are not extremely strong late game classes, I've been able to like say relevant and interesting things about the perks because there are genuinely like meaningful differences in how the class performs, and like taking the right perk can make the mission quite a lot easier and stuff like that. But ultimately, when you look at a class that is this extraordinarily strong in late game, what it comes down to is that you're just not going to fail tactical missions in late game with a class like this. It's just not going to happen. I failed a late game invasion in my last campaign, but like it didn't matter. That's an extremely difficult mission with many enemies with many hit points and an extremely strong time pressure. But the Golden Path missions aren't like that. They don't have a time pressure, so you can just like take your time, use your consumables, your cooldowns, set up good Overwatch ambushes, take good cover and good ground, and you're just going to win. You're going to have like Sharpshooters who use squad sight to break tactical. You're going to have Shinobi Scout who uses concealment to break tactical. You're going to have specialists who use mind control to break tactical. And you're going to have specialists and rangers who are using Overwatch to break tactical. And at that point, you should be able to win tactical. So, yeah, like you can take Killzone. Go for it. Sure. Kill them even more. Congratulations. I haven't actually taken Killzone on a specialist yet, just because I haven't ever seen any need. It does only take one action to set up if you're using a non-sniper rifle at this point. And actually, in Long War II, snipers can't get Killzone, so I guess it always takes one action to set up. It's fine. Capacitor discharge is a somewhat small, like about 4.5 to 5 tile radius, I want to say. Maybe 4 tile radius. Somewhat small AoE attack, which deals, if you have a tier 2 gremlin, which I think is sort of hard to get a tier 3 gremlin, it deals like 6 to 10-ish, around about there, damage, and it will disorient stuff, which is pretty nice. I used it against a couple of Codex units on Waterworld to stop them from splitting and deal some damage, and then followed that up with a Shredstorm Cannon to finish killing them. Oh yeah, you're also breaking tactical with Shredstorm Cannons, with exosuits or warsuits probably at this point, if you want to. The 5 ways I would identify to break tactical in this game, just for what it's worth. Shredstorm Cannons, Overwatch, Squad Sight, Concealment, Mind Control. And yeah, we can easily be doing all 5 of those at this point in the campaign. So yeah, capacitor discharge is fine. It's just very reliable AoE damage. It's not a huge amount of AoE damage. It's far from the best AoE consumable, but it is an AoE consumable, and it doesn't take a consumable slot. It takes away a Master Sergeant perk choice, but the other ones aren't. I mean, they're both extremely powerful, and it's just mostly irrelevant in both cases. I usually like to go for restoration here. Just like if things are going bad, somehow restoration is a very reliable way to hit reset and get things back under control. So, Master Sergeant specialists. I'm sorry, I don't feel like I was as like elucidating about these particular perks as usual, but that's just because I'm looking at I mean, in the mid-game video, I started getting a little bit exasperated about how many Overwatch shots we were taking against enemies with no cover that we could crit with, right? And now, like, the next thing I did was take Mind Control as the next perk. So I just like at some point I just can't anymore. This tree is, I would say, so abusive that it's hard to even begin to imagine how you could reel it in to be on a reasonable level of strength compared to other classes at this stage in the campaign. There are ways that this tree can fail. If you go on a guerrilla operation with no robots on it, and you run straight into enemy pods without pressing the Overwatch button, this tree actually isn't that good. As long as there's no strategic hack on the mission. But like, look at what these perks are. We only had to spend 3 perks in order to take 2 shots, which can crit against enemies who are out of cover without having to do any work to set that up, and we get to do that while dashing. That only cost us 3 perks on the tree. We have this throwaway 4th perk, Field Surgeon, which just randomly makes the strategic layer much easier for us. It's not really randomly. I really like the perk Field Surgeon. I think it's an awesome perk. But like, it's just like on this tree as well. Hey, by the way, all of your soldiers get wounded for less time, so you'll have stronger teams on all the missions. Cool. We have Trojan, which is like probably the weakest thing on this perk tree. It's really nice with Haywire Protocol. When we shut something down or mind control it, it's effectively dealt with for an extra turn, and if it has low enough hit points, it will just die outright. So like, it's a strong perk, but it's probably the least exciting on this tree. We have Restoration, which can heal, 20 plus hit points with 1 button press on your really crucial late game missions if things start to go bad. I have yet to ever in my life have Restoration actually do this. Disclaimer, like, I've never gotten to that point. But yeah, in theory, it could. And then the tree also has 2 different abilities which can mind control enemies. I think that if this tree did half as much, it would be a good tree. And instead it does this much. Basically, before the Specialist Overwatch build was a thing, the tree did half as much, because the Specialist wasn't doing all the Overwatch stuff, really. But once Sentinel was put at Lance Corporal, that's just sort of off the table. Soldier's insane! Soldier's absolutely insane. The actual reason that it's not a 10 out of 10 in both categories is it's not that incredible against like Archons with lightning reflexes. Like, bio enemies are not that heavily hit by this tree, so that cuts it off a little bit for alpha striking. And in breakdowns, you do sometimes have fail chances on your hack, which can like really ruin you if you don't succeed. But that's about all that's wrong with it in breakdowns, to be honest. I didn't even mention Aid Protocol yet, which is just randomly giving one of your soldiers plus 25 defense per turn. These soldiers are very, very good. Don't think about these soldiers as just objective gatherers anymore. That was a little bit more true in like vanilla. It was a little bit more true in earlier iterations of Long War 1 when more and more other classes had extremely broken things they could do in Long War 1, or in Long War 2 in earlier versions. Did I say Long War 1? Long War 2 version 1.0 is what I meant to say. Like, Sharpshooter Serial was much, much stronger than it is now. You could do things like Shadow Strike, face off with a pistol and just deal like 10 to 15 damage to everything in vision from concealment. Close Combat Specialist was, almost twice as good. Not really. Close Combat Specialist was better on assaults, so they had this ridiculous multi-shot thing. They had Street Sweeper, and it was better. Saturation Fire was better. In general, the things which are really, really strong have gotten clamped down on in Long War 2 since 1.0. and specialists were actually having a weaker tree in 1.0, in my opinion. And it was reasonable also to build specialists for stealth missions a lot, so you weren't really thinking about their combat capability. In fact, it was unusual for me to bring a specialist on a fighting mission in 1.0. There were just other classes who did better at that point. But everything that I've just said for the last hour, like this class is insane. I think that playing a campaign with only specialists would be challenging at times because of the weaknesses that I identified, like lightning reflexes, bio enemies. They're very good at alpha striking because they can mind control robots, but if there aren't any robots, they're a little bit lackluster. But like having 2 specialists on every mission is going to be completely fine and is going to make a campaign seem pretty trivial, in my opinion. So that's my opinion on specialists. Hope you guys enjoyed this class review, and there's only one left to do. We're going to be talking about Shinobis tomorrow. So I look forward to that, and I'll see you there.